we'll just dive right into it.
All right.
I know you've kind of been doing the local podcast circuit.
Yeah, the network this week. Yeah, between
I caught you on Willie's. You popped a couple clips out there. So
I saw that. Yeah.
We're gonna get this out before he gets his out, though. He's just piling up.
Yeah, I know.
Content
That's what he said.
right
Yeah,
now.
he said he was just stacking it. Yeah.
I'm not like that. I like to just get it and get it out.
That's what we do too.
Why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
All right, yeah. So I'm Luke, Luke Kooy. I own Up North Collectors, Sports Cards and More in Manistee, which is a sports card store. I buy and sell sports and trading cards, so like Pokemon, baseball cards, football cards, basketball cards, just about everything. Sell online pretty heavily, and then now in store as well.
How old are you?
18.
18.
Yep.
Okay. So this has been something you've been doing. I mean, I would say since you were younger, probably collecting cards?
Yeah, so I've been collecting cards since I was like 4 years old, probably.
Okay.
So yeah, even maybe a little bit before 4 years old, and have never stopped or taken a break or anything. Just gradually just kind of built it bigger and bigger since 4. So I've been going at it for a while.
So where does the selling come into play?
So selling comes into play probably like at 15 or 16 years old is when I started actually selling stuff.
So just a couple of years.
Yeah, really just a couple of years in actual selling. Never really had interest in doing much selling before that. It was mostly just compiling and then and collecting, and then it turned into more. I could think I can make a little bit of money off of this, so started selling.
Interesting. So you made a little bit of money then.
Yeah.
In order to get you to where you're at now, currently with the storefront.
Yep. Yeah. So I was able to open up a store completely, no debt free, just be able to open it up, and it was everything that I'd built just from buying cards, going to shows, buying individual cards, and reselling them online for more. And I went to garage sales too for a while, and would flip stuff at garage sales on eBay, do the whole Gary V hustle, and did that for a while. I cut grass for a while in summers in high school, so a bunch of different things to make some money.
Well, before we really get into you buying and selling cards, where does this hustle come from?
I don't know. During COVID, all of a sudden, I was like, I'm bored. I want something to do, and so I started getting into Gary V's content a little bit. I don't even really know how I found it. I kind of stumbled across it, and kind of found it, and then thought about how I could make some money that summer, and decided to go through the phone book and cold call 3,000 people in Manistee.
To do what?
Lawn care, to cut their grass. I was offering free estimates for grass cutting, and so I cold called 3,000 people. Probably got 2,980 no's and 20 yeses, and that was actually the math for it. Was basically how that worked out, and so learned a ton from that experience, just sitting in my room and cold calling all these people on my cell phone. So if you live in Manistee, you probably got called by me at one point.
If
those
you've
got
of
a
you that still have a
landline.
landline.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was going to say, because I didn't get a phone call, but I don't have a landline.
Yeah, if you had a landline, you got a phone call.
So it's interesting. So this really came out of COVID.
Yep.
And honestly, if you were going to make any cash, you were going to have to hustle during COVID.
You had to. Yeah, you didn't really have a choice, because especially as like a teen, no one was hiring right at school, because we weren't in school, and so the only places that were hiring were a place like like the food industry or something, and I just didn't really want to feel like doing that, and so decided that I'd do my own thing instead.
What was the first thing you put on eBay? If you can remember that.
Probably, well, I started, so I listened again to Gary Vee, and was talking about, just going through your house and selling stuff. It's like, I bet I have some stuff in my room. And I think it was I had like an old paintball gun that someone gave me. I never played paintball, but I had this gun and listed it. And I think it sold in 5 minutes on eBay. It was gone. And I made $25 off of it, or $30 off of it. That was the first sale I ever made.
So then we segue into your baseball card collection.
Yeah. And so after that, I started doing the garage sale thing and selling and selling and selling. And then during that time, cards got really, really, really hot again, really hot. Just people were cooped up, had nothing to do. And so I started buying and selling baseball cards pretty heavily, and would buy stuff. At that time, it was you're able to buy stuff right off of eBay, and then 2 weeks later resell it back on eBay just for more.
Wild.
Which is crazy. I mean, it was crazy. It was ridiculous. And then gradually it's turned into more and more of a, at least for me, it's more of a volume game. So it's how much can I buy at X percentage off of, under retail, and then selling at full retail. And your margins are generally they're not thin, but you're making like a 30% margin, and you're just turning and burning high volumes of stuff now is where I'm at.
Wow. So I took some cards down to you.
Yes.
So I'm 44, so I started collecting these cards, you know, in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yep.
And I didn't do it for very long.
Yep.
So I think you've looked through them.
Yes.
I think I have a decade. It's kind of like the 90s.
It is. It is really, yes.
All right. So my question to you is, I pulled these baseball cards out when I first met you.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, so I might take these down to them and see what they're worth. They've just been sitting in my basement for 30 years.
Yes.
And I mean, this box that I have right here I don't even know where the sleeve came from. I just started putting cards in it when I was a kid and put stickers on it. That's how old it is. And then I have this Topps, which I had kind of a hard-on for, thinking that, wow, you know, open this up and all these sealed boxes.
1990 Topps.
You know, and I thought I had I didn't think I had a gold mine. Honestly, I thought I had about a $500 set here.
Yeah.
I thought I had about $500 here. And then I thought maybe you'd pull a diamond out of the rough that I hadn't looked at in forever and said, you know what, actually that card's worth a shitload of money. But before we get into that, are the new cards more valuable than old cards?
So that's a good question. So basically what happened was, so this Topps is still like kind of the premier brand for baseball cards. Topps started making cards in 1951, 52. And then, so the 50s and 60s cards are extremely valuable because they just didn't make many of them. There are pre-war cards like in the 30s and then like early 1900s and those things are worth a fortune. But the 50s and 60s are a lot more common in comparison to the really early stuff. But those are worth a lot of money. 70s baseball cards can also be worth a lot of money, but generally it starts to slowly decline in value through the 70s. 80s, in 1986, they just started running the presses on stuff, and they didn't do anything to make anything scarce. There was no scarcity to it. So any of the big name, like Barry Bonds has a rookie card and Bo Jackson have a rookie card in 1986 Topps, and they're both worth about $2.50 just because they made so many of them. There's hundreds of thousands of copies of those out there. And then gradually they just increased production all the way up into like 1992, 93, 94 was kind of the peak of it, where they had just produced so many cards. And so they really are worth just about nothing. There really is only a couple of cards in there that are worth more than $20. And then gradually after 93, 94, that stuff started to go up again because they started to make less. It became less popular, they made more. And so like late 90s, you get into some stuff that can be worth some pretty decent money. And then 2000 and on, they started to do things like put in autograph cards and make things like short printed or serial numbered, where the cards started to be worth a lot more money again.
So you're saying I started collecting cards in the worst decade possible?
Yes, as did most. Yes. So like if I have 50 people, let's say, that come bring stuff into my store, I see exactly what you have 47 times out of 50.
Holy shit.
And that's not an exaggeration. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly how the math works out. I'll get calls with people that have some, will say that they have some really good stuff. And it's because in the late 80s, early 90s, this stuff was worth a decent amount of money. And it's not anymore.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought about just giving them to you.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not gonna do anything, but it's pretty amazing. So how do you? I get all pumped up, Jose Canseco, but it doesn't matter.
No, it's just they made so many of that same Jose Canseco card that even though there's a ton of Jose Canseco fans, it's not worth. No, everyone that wants one has one, and then there's 500,000 left over. And so you can't even, to go about selling those is almost, it's not impossible, but it's extremely difficult. Like on eBay, I wouldn't be able to sell that.
No.
It just wouldn't move.
You had to put it in the mystery box.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. That's exactly what you'd have to do.
Huh. All those years. Well, so you have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the name of your YouTube channel?
It's Up North Collectors is the YouTube channel.
It's pretty fascinating. So in that, I started taking a look at some of this basic. I have some other friends that are into watching what you do, which is kind of like an unboxing type deal. So you would take, if this was for example a new sealed deck of cards.
Yes.
you open that live on YouTube.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so
Just open these kind of things up all the time.
let's talk about why is that so huge?
It's just popular. I mean, it's like people just love doing it. I mean, it's the fun part about collecting is that you get to open stuff and you don't know what's in there. It's like unboxing a mystery box, or it's anything like that, which is super popular in today's culture, is to open kind of the unknown. And it kind of goes with, it's kind of risen in popularity with like sports betting and some of those other things, because you can open up a box and try to get the players that you think are going to do really well, but you're not walking away with nothing. You're going to at least get something. You could hit something huge. And out of some of these products, some of these cards are selling for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000.
I've seen
There's a card that sold for $1 million last week. I mean, there's crazy stuff.
And these are new cards.
These are new cards.
It's almost like watching somebody gamble.
It is. I mean, it borderline is, yes.
So, but when you say if this was a new deck, you're probably more than likely going to at least walk away with something.
Yeah, you're
so
gonna
how much does a new deck cost?
Yeah, so like it varies. So like if you have the boxes that I sell in my store range from really the cheapest like hobby box, which would be like what that is, which is like a full set basically. Those boxes run anywhere from like $50-ish all the way up to, there's a box that costs $25,000 for one box. And so,
is that a gamble?
That is a gamble. Yes, that is a serious gamble.
Like, what are you hoping to get out of a box that's
$1 million rookie card? Because they exist in there. So like this year there's one that's called Flawless Basketball, and there's a LeBron James card that sold out of there for like $800,000 or $1.1 million, it's somewhere in there. And so someone pulled that out of a $25,000 box, and so
like
they made
Willy
a
Wonka.
ton of money. Yeah, exactly.
It's like getting the golden ticket.
Exactly.
Wow. What are the odds then that out of this little gem here, we pull $1,000 baseball card?
0.
Why?
Because they made so many of them. There's nothing like 1990 Topps is probably the most overprinted set ever. Like it's right up there. It really is. Like you saved probably the worst year that you could have.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, let's open that and see what's in there.
1990 Topps.
How many of these have you opened?
Not that many. I sell these in my store, not 90, but I'll sell like 87 or a few of the other years. And they actually sell very well because it's a nostalgia thing for people.
So it says 89 cents. So I could have bought this pack for 89 cents in the 90s.
Yeah,
Am I going to get a card out of here that could be worth $1?
Maybe. There's a Dave Winfield. And like, hey, a Dave Winfield like this is probably 2 cents, a penny, somewhere in there. And that's a big time name. So Earl Cunningham, Gene Larkin, Otis Nixon.
Bubble gum.
There we go. Yeah. Yummy. Have some 30-year-old bubble gum. That's awesome. Joe Morgan, Willie McGee. There's a Barry Larkin.
I was a big fan of Barry Larkin.
You're a Barry Larkin fan?
2 cents.
A penny, probably.
Wow.
Fred McGriff. It's a decent name. Nixon, Finley, and there's a Cal Ripken to end it off. It's a bigger name too.
5 cents.
Yeah, 2-3 cents probably.
No shit.
Yeah.
All right.
They're brutal. So there you go. There you have it. That's today's unboxing, 1990 Topps baseball.
So how do you, when you look through those, I mean, do you know all the players? I mean, do you know what you're looking for?
Just the big names, yeah. I mean, out of the 90s stuff, you're just looking for the Hall of Famers. That's
You're just looking for the Hall of Famers.
There's a couple of other things in there to keep an eye out for, but like in 90 Topps, it's just Hall of Famers. That would be worth anything.
Well, I wanted to bring up the fact that you're moving downtown in January.
Yes.
So your current location is where?
I'm on 237 River Street, so I'm over by the Ironworks to like the east end of the Ironworks in Manistee. And then we'll be moving to, I can't remember the address of the new building, but we'll be right next to Goodies downtown. Right next to, there's like public restrooms and a staircase that go up, and we're in the building. There's like the old upholstery shop,
right?
Was what it was known as. So,
when I was growing up here as a kid, over where the Spicer Group is now, was Third Coast.
Yep.
And it was where I would go to get some of these baseball cards. Thanks, Hook. Rest in peace. And I pulled these. I was obviously Michigan, so a huge Tiger fan. this Alan Trammell out of his case.
Yep.
And I don't even know who these Tony Taylor and Ron.
Like this card, so like a Trammell like this one, like this card's probably worth $1. This is a little bit better.
I think I paid $25 for that.
Yep, and that's about right. Because if you bought it in the early 90s, that would be about going value for it. You probably got a good deal on it at that point. But that stuff, I mean, there's stuff like the Ken Griffey Jr. rookies. I think we're selling for over $100 back in like the '89 Upper Deck ones, which was like the premier card. We're selling for 100, 150, $200 back then, and those are like $20, $30 now. That's like one of the most desirable cards from the '90s. Those Ken Griffeys.
Do you want to see these cards from other people?
The junk wax, like that's what it's referred to, like the 86, 92. I'll always love mostly just to help people out, to understand and kind of educate people on the idea that there's not really any value there. And there's a couple of things, 80s basketball cards, and there's some value there. But most people have baseball and
I've
football.
always thought forever that baseball was the card.
Yep.
But it's everything now. I mean, you can make money in hockey cards.
Yes. Yep. Everything. But the reason like basketball is worth so much from the 80s is because people thought baseball and then slowly football would be the things. Basketball wasn't as collectible in the late 80s, and so that stuff isn't worth a lot of money.
Well, I'm really excited for you, dude. I hope more and more people recognize what you're doing, grinding, hustling. Well, that was before. I mean, I think now you've kind of just you've gotten to your lane. You know what you're doing, and I think the sky's the limit for you. So you're gonna do more than just cards. It's gonna be more of a collectible shop.
Yeah,
correct?
exactly. Yep. So it's gonna be more collectibles. Right now, I'm just super limited. I have like 500 square feet of storefront. I mean, you've been in there. It's small. It's really small. So the goal is to have more like, make it kind of have some like man cave type of stuff in there, some cool memorabilia pieces. Like right now in my it's not out, but in my shop I have a 1989 World Champion Pistons full team autograph signed 3-piece frame picture. Some really cool stuff like that, but I just don't have room to put it out. So some stuff like that, like jerseys, t-shirts, hats, sports stuff, Pokemon, Magic, all that kind of collectible stuff. And then hopefully some other cool things as well. Not sure what that'll be yet, but something.
So, and then so if there's something that somebody brings into you, it's almost like, it's not a pawn shop, but you will buy and sell?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so it's not regulated like a pawn shop would be, but buy and sell stuff. I pay basically a percentage of retail depending on what you have. There's different percentages that I'll pay, but pay cash for that kind of stuff.
Do anything with consignment or?
A little bit, but it has to be pretty high end. Like I don't really touch consignment unless it's like $2,000 or $3,000 or more on an individual card.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like, this is a cash business.
It is, yeah.
And how often are you rotating through your inventory? Like if I come in today and I look at your inventory and say, oh, especially if I'm a younger person, and I want to maybe start collecting or build my collection. If I walk in one day and say, ooh, that looks really nice, I think I might want to buy that, but I don't quite have the money. I'm gonna have to wait a week, save up my allowance or whatever. It might be gone. Yeah. Okay, it's good to know.
Generally, it's like a weekly turn. I would say especially like the showcase stuff, the higher end stuff. It's probably a week to 2 week turn on that kind of stuff. Generally, some stuff's as quick as a couple hours, and some stuff is a couple of weeks. Some stuff takes a couple of months. It's hard to know, but
everything in your store available online, as far as your cards.
For the most part. Some of the sealed product isn't, because I have a hard time keeping that in stock and store alone, and so I'm building it to the point where I can sell it online, but right now I'm not currently. But with all the singles stuff, yes.
Wow, this is just, it blows my mind. And when again are you moving downtown?
So moving at the end of January as of right now is the plan.
Well, if you guys haven't checked out his spot, go check it out. Even though he says it's small, it's still pretty cool to walk in there and see all the cards that he has on display. It's awesome talking to him. He's a wealth of knowledge. If you've been in the game a long time, like I have, you might want to find out how much your stuff is worth.
Yeah, bring him on down. I'll check him out.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, hey, thank you.